I'm Timmy.
I'm Justin.
And I'm Nathan.
This is Three Old Tech Dudes.
It's the best part of waking up.
Welcome back to the 3OTD viewers, the army, that's not, I'm not going to call them that. I don't know why. We need to name the 3OTD viewers. So if you have any suggestions on that, put it in the comments below.
For people.
The force.
Okay.
Be the force.
The force.
The force. The
Schwartz.
Anyway.
Maybe we should have a vote on that. That's something we can think about. Hey,
okay. What are we talking about?
I did a thing. I'm so excited.
Oh my.
I did a thing.
It didn't require shots, did it?
It didn't. I actually did this some years ago. So
I remember you do that. I was working out at Westgate.
That's right. So some of you may know that have viewed the channel here and there that I am a software developer. That is what I do for a living. So
he's a nerd.
I am a nerd.
I would never get caught doing that.
Oh no. Any chance I get, I'm going to try to tie my hobbies into computer programming if I can. That basically means I build my own toys and tools. And I've always thought how cool it would be to build a ham radio repeater with a software controller. And I came up with a way to do that, and I wanted to demo it to y'all here. It is not available for public release yet, and may never be, but
so here it is, but you can't have it.
Not yet, but I want to show it off and maybe get thoughts on it. This is version 1.1 of this controller. I've already started on version 2. We'll talk about that here in a minute after.
It's not going to be 1.2?
Nope. This is a big revision, so it's going to be V2. So
you're running COBOL?
Absolutely not. C#.net, my friend. The language of the holy developers. All the Java and JavaScript people and PHP people just got real mad.
Oh, yeah. So and C++ people,
no, especially them. They're very high and mighty and important. No, honestly, awesome. C++ is hard.
Not that hard.
No, it's true. It's not. I love C-style languages. That's my thing.
It's just
anyway.
It's syntax changes. Man.
It is.
Boys.
Yeah, I was saying, Nathan's throwing me off here because he's saying legitimate things I want to talk about. I want to show this demo clip of the repeater demonstrated on a tabletop with non-repeater radios, which I think is a cool thing that my stuff can do. So here we go.
So as we just mentioned, this is a little Frankenstein contraption of a repeater, a 70 centimeter repeater that I built. Initially, the concepts for back in 2019, and this was actually on the air at a temporary location for a while. What's unusual about it is it's built out of just standard Icon mobile radios. It doesn't have a core signal pickup, anything like that. It's all Vox based, essentially, using this Rig Blasternomic. That's the receiving radio. This is the transmit radio. Here's our duplexer. It's 447175 and 442175. And of course, we've got a power supply, but the heart of it is the KB9 SNL repeater controller software. This is very much an alpha item, kind of beta maybe, not ready for the prime time, for sure. I have tested it successfully with Lynx. I've had a second radio hooked to this in the past, but it's got some bugs to it, but it does work. We'll go ahead and stop it here. But essentially it just uses, RS-232 keying like a lot of ham radio software does, and it rides on top of the Windows audio for a few things. I've got some more plans for this that involve actually picking up core signals via Arduino over serial and some other tricks maybe I'd like to try. But I'm a computer programmer. As my career, I'm a computer programmer. So C# and I get along really well, .NET in general, along with other languages. But there's some neat NuGet packages I was able to put together with this a few years back. And I need to finish it out. But show you guys how it works. I've got an HT running over here. We'll fire it up.
KB9SNL repeater controller, version 1.1. KB9SNL repeater, PL107.2.
All right. So well, you heard it kick up there. So here's our transmit radio, transmitting on 442 175. This is actually the first mobile radio I ever bought new for myself in my early 20s. Bought this in 2003, an old IC208H. Used this radio a lot of years. It eventually developed a problem with receive because, well, I spilled coffee in it and it broke it, and I was going to get it repaired, but the squelch misbehaves. It's really hard to actually use for communications, but the transmitter works perfectly. You note the meter acting up. It does that even when there's no interference. I mean, it's got some bugs. But then over here I have a slightly older but very similar IC207. That is our receiver. I bought this at a Hamfest some years back and have used it off and on in vehicles and may eventually put it back in one. I've got one of these duplexers you can purchase off of eBay. They come from China, but they will pre-tune them for a frequency pair, so that's convenient. Some of the features you have here works pretty well. Right. KB9 SNL. Something else it has, I'll show you in a second, is it does have DTMF ability. So I'm behind the camera with my HT, and I wanted to show you, if you look in the lower left here, you'll see a detected DTMF screen. It does have the ability to pick up DTMF tones off of the audio stream coming in from the receive radio. The audio passes through the PC sound card, and it's set to like a listen, like you would listen to your microphone. If you've ever set up your Windows microphones for that on PCs, it's not something you use a lot, but it works well in this case. Well, it works well enough. But we're able to use an audio stream reader in .NET and pick up the DTMF. So we've got a time check code in here, like a grandfather clock. Let's try that. 400.
The time is 5:14 p.m. KB9SNL repeater, PL107.2.
You might notice it had a meter jump there. It's a bug I have. I think I need a audio isolation transformer on the receive radio input, but for now I just put a 1 second audio stream check timer disable there, so it doesn't key the radio, because it would get stuck in a loop where it would just chunk itself, basically, chunk over and over. Yeah, it's pretty slick. I have not had this on a nice repeater site. It has had a bug where after about a month it will begin to slow down and you need to reboot the machine. So that's obviously not something you want running at a repeater situation. But my club is getting ready to put up a new 220 repeater. So I'm going to begin working on the software again, because I'm hoping to run it with this. The repeater will be built in such a way we could use a traditional hardware controller like an Arcom or whatever. But I would like to get this looking for a core signal properly on an input line, and working with some tricks with that. I've kind of got it in my head how I'm going to do that, but I have not tried it yet. Pretty neat software, I think anyway. KB9SNL. And of course it does the 10-minute ID. I think I have a hello world in this right now from the original code testing. 3 ones.
Hello world.
Yep. Interesting, I thought it fired the courtesy tone, but it did not. Huh. I have tested the linking. I have built an interface for Baofings for this before to test that. I may throw that back on eventually again, but it's just a neat toy to play with. One of the cool things about the hobby, you know. And of course I got the radios here. Right now it's using this mobile antenna on this chair. Just a temporary toy setup here. I guess. I know what. You know what? I'll take an HT outside and leave one in here with y'all, and you can hear how the audio sounds without me in the room. That may be helpful.
KB9SNL repeater, PL107.2. Okay, now walking through my yard here with the HD on low power. Let's give this repeater rig a test run. The equate out to 1 second delay. I'm quite a ways out from the office building where this is set up here on my property. So, yeah, so far so good, I guess. KB9SNL. The time is 5:20 p.m. KB9SNL repeater, PL 107.2. KB9SNL.
So there you have it, a little experimental repeater I built. Could absolutely build a full-on repeater out of this, or a simplex relay setup, or any number of things. So I enjoy bringing software development and the hobby of ham radio together occasionally.
So what do you guys think about the repeater toy? What do you think of that?
You're a
Is that
nerd.
smart guy stuff. I am a nerd.
No, it's pretty cool. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Being and making them a nerd money too.
Be interesting to see when you integrate the core signal detection.
Yeah. Okay, so I got something cool to show you because I started experimenting with that. So I've got right here, let me make myself big in the screen. I've got an Arduino Uno, right? See?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hooked via USB to the PC. That allows you serial access. So I've got 2 pins here, pin 9 and ground, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm gonna be able to do it on camera, but I'm gonna put these wires together and show you guys something in a program I wrote here. That will become a part of V2 of the repeater controller, which more or less this version does away with the Vox system. I may actually fork it and keep that around for other uses. So on the left here, we have Visual Studio, right? And a C# application.
Yeah.
On the right, you have Arduino IDE, which allows you to write C++ to program an Arduino. It may just be C. I don't remember which. It's very simple. An Arduino is a pretty straightforward device. You can have some variables and you have a setup void that it calls it start, right?
Yeah.
And then it has a loop that runs over here. And I've got this looking and it has a millisecond delay for debounce, which that's not worth explaining here. But you don't want to check the pins constantly because one button push would end up being like, 30 entries.
Oh yeah.
If you don't wait.
That's
because it's very fast. So
you can debounce your switch, but yeah.
Absolutely. So let me start this. What this C# program does, and this is kind of the key to the repeater controller as it's running on the PC side, right? But I can take the Arduino and hook it to the core signal and ground on the radio side, right?
Yeah.
So it's like closing a switch when the squelch opens. That's what the core signal is. The pin goes high when the squelch is open.
Yeah.
That's magic you need for a repeater. That could cause your transmit radio to go into transmit when the receive radio receives. So that's basically how repeaters work. So let's just look here at the serial monitor then. Compiling the sketch. Let's look at serial port monitor. Talk. Did it actually go? Yeah, it did. Okay. See, it says Arduino ready here, right?
Okay.
All right. So let's just look at the serial monitor down there and I'll touch these pins together and I should get core. See the word core? Core. Every time that prints, I'm touching those wires together. Magic.
Wow.
That's so sad.
So assuming that that's, a thing, if I close the serial monitor and start this, it should do the same thing, but it didn't, a minute ago, which made me sad. So let's try it anyways. There it went.
Hey, look at that.
So that's actually seeing that core string come in on the serial port into the C# app. If I can do this as a C# app, that magically means I can add that to the repeater controller source.
What'd you do? Console right?
Yeah, this is actually console right. Yeah, it's got
console
an
right
if.
line.
Yeah, it's got an if in here. And this actually uses, if you just want a quickie C# lesson is what it's done here. This is a console app, so it calls static void main, right? And this sets up your serial port object, which is hard coded to COM8 in this case.
Yep.
And it tries to open the port, and then it once it sets the port, you set data received, and you give it an event handler. So this event handler is this void here, port data received. Anytime it receives data on the serial port, the C# app will automatically fire this block of code here. So it'll read everything that's on existing byte on the port, and I just check to see if it's those letters I'm sending from the Arduino C++.
Core console write line.
Yeah, and so if it matches, then it console write lines core signal high.
Yeah.
And that, gentlemen, is how we create a real repeater controller that doesn't use Vox.
So magical.
I'm pretty proud of it. Can you tell? It doesn't look like a lot, but I always say it took me a long time to get to this point where I could just code like this.
Right.
I'm just like, can I do this? I know some of the pieces I need. Get on Google and start digging around, and eventually you find everything you need to build it. So, it helps that the Arduino's entire interface to the PC for development is the serial port. So it's got very simple commands for writing to serial. You basically say serial port open, and it just works. So, So that's what's coming for our 220 repeater at the Ham Club and future version of the controller, basically. And then in this case, it will begin functioning as a software version of a hardware controller. That's basically what it's doing at this point. You'll pair an Arduino Uno with a PC, and that Uno's only job, at least initially, will be to read core signal on the receive radio. So, you could probably do it with serial pins, but this was really a path of least resistance for a low entry point price wise. So I'll just do it. I'll just donate this Uno. I've got more than one. So they're capable of a lot more, but I like building it myself. When I say that, some people say they build it with the software. That's great. I built the code itself because I'm a psychopath or a nerd.
Or you're a nerd.
You're a nerd.
So, hey, comment below if you think this is cool. I expect to hear certain comments such as, why didn't you just build it on the Arduino? You could. Why don't you build it on a Pi?
Yeah, I was going to.
You could do that. You could. I'm a .NET programmer. Now, .NET Core probably runs on a Pi. The newer .NET. I still use .NET Framework because it's what I learned years ago. So I've not migrated. .NET Core runs on about any OS out there. .NET Framework, you're pretty much stuck with Windows. I'm a Papa.NET coder. Okay. I'm still using .NET Framework until it's not supported. Then I might have to transition. So the problem with the repeater controller is it relies on some very specific .NET Framework libraries, such as DTMF audio detection and stuff, a library on the original.
I remember how excited you were when you found that library.
Dude, that was an unusual piece of code to get working. I remember I did that by actually holding up my radio to the microphone and pushing DTMF codes as well as a telephone, and to see if it heard the numbers. And I was like, oh, when it did, it just blew my mind. So very similar after what I showed you there was a console.
Actually, I have a chip that'll do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of chips that do that. It's being used a lot of stuff. It's one that comes to mind immediately are those
it's a DTMF decoder chip.
The Fox controllers we use for the have that chip in it, and the PICPON, that's what it's called. They actually have that in there because you can trigger them and in fact program them with that. So So this is a neat ham project that kind of brings those the coding world and the radio world together for me. So I've enjoyed making it. And like I said, we did have this repeater on the air for a time, a very low coverage repeater in a place where Justin and I both used to work, and we did occasionally grab some HTs and talk across the field through that little repeater.
Do you remember the one day when the power went off and
I did.
We were actually able to talk over HTs just in the buildings?
Yeah, because it was so quiet. Yeah, I usually couldn't do that for all the radio noise, at least at the building I was in. So got a lot quieter with all the power off, the lights and such.
Amazing how weird how that happens.
I'm just across the field from you guys.
You do that, didn't you, Nathan? I forgot you tried that repeater when it was over there. But the repeater on the table, that was that repeater. So those two ICOMs. So hey, hope you guys enjoy this video, you ham guys. Let me know what you think. I think building ham radio projects are kind of cool. They're usually electronics projects. It's a little outside the box, I think, for a lot of people. It was for me, but it's something I always thought I could do. And eventually I gained enough skill in my career to do it. So it's cool. Radio is cool and coding's cool. I think I like coding more, not gonna lie. So especially if I get into it. So there's gonna be a lot of stuff the next few months you guys see out of me as far as code. So it's all weird stuff like BBS doors and stuff.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, hey, Justin's getting sickly on it, so they're running a fever and still pulling this off. Good job. He's like, whatever.
Trooper. Just a measly 105.
100. 105?
Yeah,
100.5.
Okay, so
Well,
it's like-
100.5 will knock me over pretty good. I'll be ready to sit on the couch. So
Ugh.
I guess talking to microphone's not too
got
hard.
my
though.
trusty little guy here. So
Yeah, that's like a real life thermometer that the doctors use.
Yeah.
Welch Allen stuff. Anyway,
Yeah.
well, hey, be sure, guys, to I still can't use StreamYard, and this is like the 20 gazillion. That's not even the
whoa,
right
hey,
video.
that's what are you doing over there?
Gosh,
I want to take your buttons away.
for the love of Pete. Hey, reach out to us on X if you're on there. We got some following over there and on Facebook. Be sure to like and subscribe there. We post links to the videos on both platforms, but most importantly, comment here on Facebook.
Yep.
Tell us what you think. Tell us what you hate, what you like. We'll probably ignore the hate, but we like the likes, but we may acknowledge both. You never know. You know, like that guy that used to say, my favorite line, as always, the 3 old biddies talking about nothing.
You have that.
What was his
mapped
name?
to a button, don't you?
I do. But anyway,
Well, in this case, we weren't talking about nothing. We were talking about a.
we had a good
controller.
subject in this
We
episode.
had a
You're right.
controller, so
We
yeah,
sure
that was
did.
a thing.
And I brought a hardware out and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, hope you guys have a good week. We'll catch you next round. Till next time, I'm Timmy,
I'm Justin.
I'm Nathan.
and this is 3 Old Tech Dudes.
Later.
Later.
Thanks for hanging out with us here on 3 Old Tech Dudes. Please subscribe to us here on YouTube for more tech old and new, tinkering at the workbench, repairs, ham radio, electronics, computers, and more. Please like this video and share 3OTD with your friends to help us grow the channel. We tweet at 3 Old Tech Dudes 1 on Twitter, and you can keep up with us on Facebook. Just search for 3OTD and look for our logo. Thanks so much for watching.